the Baron came to the kitchen, and he heard my mom send us away before the Baron would come to the kitchen because he didn't want him to see us there. And he heard that, and he reprimanded her and said, the children can be with you as long as they're tidy and clean and presentable, and you can give them food. And so this was a blessing to us. It's the first time I ever experienced vegetables or meat. I mean, we never hardly had we never had that. And my sister had a bowl of pudding that my mom gave her. She loved pudding, and she ate that whole bowl, and it made her so sick. She hasn't eaten pudding since. So, those are some of the experiences in the concentration camp. Then my aunt sent a letter, or I should say before that, my mom received a postcard from my father in her dream. And she remembered what the card said, wrote it down, and the day she dreamt it. And this was when I was about 5 years old. And then, about almost a year later, she got the postcard. And then she got a letter from her mom, from her sister in East Germany, and said Gustav Lutz had come to visit. Well, my grandmother had changed my father's name to her maiden name, Engel, because grandfather Lutz left Germany, took the 2 oldest daughters, and left her in Germany or Poland, and he went to Canada. So his name was really Engel, but Lutz was his father's name. And so she was able to use that as a cover name. So my mom knew immediately what that meant, and that's where she tried to escape. Well, we didn't make it. But in 1950, she and her sister appealed to the Red Cross International, and then we were allowed to leave. And if I want to talk about a memorable moment, when I heard that news, that was a happy moment, because I thought, finally I'll be in the country where I belong. I'll see my father. We're going to be a family, and I won't see guns and tanks and Russian soldiers. So, in 1950, we boarded a train from Poland, and we went to a small town in East Germany called Bad Kösen. Now that's not terribly far from Berlin, maybe 200 kilometers, which is only about 160 miles. But it's near the cities of Dresden and Leipzig that are very prominent East German cities. And we got off at the Bad Kösen train station, and somehow no one was there to meet us, so we walked to the small town of Kukelau, a village, not a town, a village. And we stopped partly there, and my mom stopped and combed our hair because we were going to meet our dad. And I looked across the wayside, and I saw all the tanks and the soldiers. And I said to my mom, with tears in my eyes, I said, Mom, you promised we wouldn't see that anymore. And so then we went on to the village, and my dad had missed the train, so he wasn't at home at the village at all. And then the next morning I met my dad. Now, my mom had kept a picture of their wedding, and he had very brown, wavy hair, and they were young and handsome couple. And now after the war, he had lost a lot of weight, and my dad has very large eyes, and his thin cheeks just accentuated his high cheekbones, and he just literally scared me. Furthermore, he took my mom away from me. And I could not be happy about that. I never called him Dad, and I never spoke to him during the 2 years in East Germany. The other problem was when I went to school, I wasn't German. I was Polish. Polish people were not accepted in Germany. So again, I was a foreigner. And then my uncle, my aunt's husband, said, and this much German I understood, I will not have Polish spoken in my home. Well, that kind of let me out. And so when I went to school, I didn't say one word for 3 weeks to anybody. And in those 3 weeks, I totally picked up the German and lost the Polish. And to this day, I don't speak Polish. I know a few words, but that's all. And at school, we had to stand at attention and say, there is no God. And that bothered me. And it bothered me because I knew all these years my mom had a very deep faith in God. We didn't belong to a church or worship in a church because we weren't allowed to. But I know that she did. I mean, I believe the postcard she received was an answer to her prayer. And I would come home after school and I'd talk to Mom and tell her how unhappy I was with the situation. And she shared those feelings with me, but she would never share them with my father, and I never talked to my father. And so what happened was I didn't know this, but she had almost just months after we arrived there, knowing the situation that was there, she got in touch with the underground in Berlin. And you could make small visits to Berlin at the time. And so pretty soon, friends and relatives of hers would take suitcases of supplies, like one suitcase at a time, and wear clothing, like one of her friends wore a fur coat in the middle of July. And what she would do is just leave it there, you see. And so, without my knowing, she had made all the arrangements for us to leave. Then finally, we were told, and I was not very happy because I thought making another change in my life is very, very worrisome to me, and I was not happy with that. And so I told my best friend, my little friend in school. By this time, I was in 3rd grade. And her parents were not friends of my family nor my circle, who were all embedded in the underground. And so this became very dangerous. And my dad found out that I had told her. And I got a beating, spare none, to let me know that on the way, I know nothing, I say nothing, and pretend I have no knowledge of anything that's going on. So the day came, and what was going to happen was my dad was going to get a telegram. And he got the telegram, and he was told that if it was a negative statement, that we could not go. But if it was positive, then we were ready to leave. And the message was, and they went to Canaan, which meant they went to Canada. And so he crumbled up the message and put it in his pocket. Now, during those years, my father was very fashionable, and he had picked up some fashionable clothes in Britain, in England, and it was, you know, the knickers and the socks that went up to the knickers, and you know, many of the people in the village kind of thought that was cool, and so of course when he left them in the pocket, and he left everything that would indicate anything about Britain or anything in at my aunt's home. And this friend's mother took care of the care packages from the US and from Canada that we received. And so my aunt packed all that in a box and gave it to this woman. She found the pants and coveted them for her husband, and she checked the pockets and found the telegram. So this was dangerous. And she went immediately to the police, unbeknownst to us, and of course we had no computers, so we didn't have to worry about it. And that's another story for later on, years down the road when the wall came down. But anyway, then we took the train to Friedrichstraße train station in East Germany, and my mom grabbed my hand and my dad grabbed my sister's, and we ran across to the subway. And when those doors closed and it became dark, my mom knew we were safe, and I could just feel her sigh of relief. You know. So then we were put in a refugee home. It was a 10 or 20-story building, and we were on the 10th floor, and it had broken windows and all of that. And we were to stay there for 2 weeks until we had our TB tests, our medical records taken care of, because one of the things that Canada and the US did not accept is people who had tuberculosis. This concerned my father because my grandmother died of tuberculosis, and my father had been subjected to it. And so he became very, very angry with my mother. What are the communists going to do with us? What if we get rejected? What will we do? Where will we go? And again, I was so angry with him for causing so many problems for my mom, and again feeling men don't have any worthwhile qualities at that time. So then, our medical records came through, and we were not rejected. The refugee home was run by Baptist nuns, and we called them sisters. And one of the sisters was very, very dear to me. And this is just on the sideline. She gave me a banana. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I started eating the banana, and the texture was just so foreign to me. I thought, oh, I can't eat this. I thought, and I can't leave it in the trash. I knew it was just so bad to leave food someone had given to you. So I went by the window and threw it down the window and hoped whoever it hit would forgive me.
Do you like bananas now?
Yes, I do. Yes. So anyway, so the day came, and the British government, British Air Force I should say, flew us out of Berlin to Hamburg. And from Hamburg we had transportation from the underground in Berlin, and they took us to the Bremerhaven, where we boarded our ship called the Biba Bre, which I call was an old cattle ship. It was not a cruise on calm seas, believe me. And it took us 9 days, and we sailed into the St. Lawrence Seaway. And when we arrived there for the first time, I saw no soldiers, no guns, and we were greeted by the underground people in Canada, and we were put on a train, and we went to Winnipeg. And we were again greeted by other people of the organization, and they took us in and fed us, and I remember my first bath in a bathtub. And then we went on another train to Calgary, Alberta, and there we were met by my aunt and uncle, my great aunt and uncle, who were our sponsors. in order to leave, we had to have a sponsor, someone in this country who could take care of us. And so we lived with them on their farm for 3 months, and then my dad got a job in another town called Didsbury, just outside of Calgary, and we lived there for 5 years. And when we went to school, of course, again, we didn't know the language, and so it became difficult. But being with my great aunt and uncle in the town of Trochu was a very good experience, because we were the only ones who were foreigners, and we became a real, what should I say, what's the word?
Is it an interest to the town?
Well, yeah, definitely an interest, but it was intriguing to them, you know. And so everybody tried to volunteer to work with us to learn the language, and we made great strides. And I remember even coloring. I had never even seen a coloring book or a crayon or anything, because we did writing and arithmetic. I mean, we didn't play around in school, you know. But we caught on to the language pretty well, and then moved to Didsbury. And then when I was in 4th grade, I was asked, the principal asked my parents if they would allow me to skip a grade. And my parents were elated, but that probably was not a good thing, because I had social problems. I mean, I tried so hard to belong and to be a part of society that, well, I just became a problem. And so that was not a good experience. However, shortly thereafter, my father decided we needed to buy a house in the city, and so we moved to Edmonton, Alberta. And Edmonton is the capital city of Alberta, and he got a job with a North American Dairy Association or something like that. And then we went to school, into high school, and my mom worked. She was a seamstress, but also was a chef in a restaurant. And life picked up for us pretty well. And so, however, being in Canada in the late 50s, 58, 59, again, there was a lot of negative feeling towards immigrants from Canada, as we have now, you know, we coming there, taking away their jobs, or whatever. And so pretty soon, one of the things that happened, I had a very good friend, and I was always involved in music, and I sang in trios, and we traveled, et cetera, et cetera. And I started dating her